This is a book ball summary of the book Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahnerman. We may think of ourselves as defined by a certain characteristic. Perhaps we are known as being impulsive or carefree. Maybe we think of ourselves as more reserved. We are calculated and averse to risk-taking. However, in reality, we are never just one thing. Our brains are incredibly complex, and there are competing and contradicting systems of thought at play, which, according to psychologist Daniel Kahnerman, dictate the way in which we respond to the challenges of life. He defines our minds as operating with two opposing systems of thought. System 1 is characterised by automatic and impulsive thoughts, while System 2 is more deliberate and thoughtful. In this video, we will unpack Kahneman's ideas about these conflicting systems of thought and learn about how we can stop inhibiting our minds and become our most intelligent selves. Number 1. A lazy mind can limit our intelligence. No matter how complex the problem at hand, problem solving is not as simple as it seems. Daniel Kahneman suggests that our minds are preconditioned to only use one system of thought when tackling a problem. When solving an equation or even a simple math question, our mental laziness is often exposed. Take the bat and ball problem, for example. If a bat and ball cost a total of $1.10, and the bat costs $1 more than the ball, how much does the ball cost? If you answered 10 cents, then you are incorrect. And as Kahneman explains, are guilty of using a system of thought number 1, intuitive and automatic. The correct answer is, in fact, 5 cents. And to arrive at this correct conclusion, your mind must integrate the second system of thought in order to solve the problem. We are all guilty of prioritizing the first system from time to time. But to unlock your brain's full potential, engaging with the second system is a must. Number 2. Consciously take control of your thoughts. Mental and physical preconditioning has another term which Daniel Kahneman calls priming. Our minds and bodies are sponges that are inexorably linked. This priming takes place unconsciously and is fostered by the world around us. Kahneman suggests that someone who is preconditioned or primed to think only of money will only respond to things associated with its primary interest, therefore unconsciously eschewing social standards and practices that lean more towards an altruistic way of life. Becoming more intelligent often means switching off the autopilot functions in our brains and responding consciously to the world around us. Number 3. Avoid making snap judgments. We live in a busy world where our brains often oversimplify things to manage our thought processes. However, sometimes this can lead to making rash and snap judgments that can land us in deep water. Have you ever made a snap judgment about someone's personality based on a fleeting first impression? We all have that at some point in our lives, but did you know that this system of thought is based on a cognitive oversimplification called exaggerated emotional coherence, or the halo effect? The halo effect is a kind of confirmation bias where our minds are comfortable making shortcuts in order to satisfy our inherent needs. Kahneman suggests that if we are to become our most intelligent versions of ourselves, we need to stop unconsciously leaning towards these biases and make more deliberate, thoughtful, and rational decisions. Number 4. Quick decision making isn't always bad, but it isn't always good either. We've talked a lot so far about mental preconditioning, which makes it easier for our minds to compartmentalize day-to-day life. Quick judgments are, as far as Daniel Kahneman is concerned, sometimes useful, but often we can overlook certain things and underwork our minds in the process. Kahneman calls the cognitive functions behind quick decision-making heuristics. According to Kahneman, there are two types of heuristics: substitution and availability. When we instinctively substitute something in, for example, a question, we are replacing a component of that question to make it sufficiently easier to answer. Similarly, heuristic availability means that we overestimate the probability of something you hear often or find easy to remember. Both of these cognitive reactions are the brain's way of making life easier to understand, but to unlock your brain's potential, we must be wary of them. Number 5. Avoid making unnecessary mistakes by understanding statistics. Statistics and rationality often go hand in hand. Daniel Kahneman suggests that our thought processes are inclined to guess rather than use an effective strategy employed in statistical analysis, which is called base rate analysis. The base rate is the statistical base which other statistics rely on, and something that Kahneman insists we should utilise when predicting an event. Base rate neglect is an extremely common anomaly, but our minds also have a predisposition to forget that things also regress to the mean. Our minds excitedly look for improbable outcomes, and we ignore the law of averages. So, that being said, in order to be a more grounded and intelligent individual, we must incorporate the use of statistical analysis into our everyday thinking. Number 6. Utilise memory correctly. Memory is a complex phenomenon. The past has an immeasurable influence on our present and future actions. This is because we learn from past mistakes, and they inform how we should act in the future. But according to Daniel Kahneman, our minds do not recall past events and experience in a straightforward way. In fact, there are two different memory selves that recall past events differently. These are the experiencing self and the remembering self. Kahneman argues that the experiencing self remembers events more accurately, as our brains are more in tune with recalling how we felt during an experience rather than what actually transpired. Remembering a sequence of events exactly as they happened is a process that is prone to inaccuracy, and if we are to utilise our memories correctly, then recalling how we felt during an event is a more productive way of deciphering our experience. Number 7. Adjust the focus of your mind. Our mind is like a muscle. It is relaxed when it does not need to expend a significant amount of energy. Returning to Daniel Kahneman's two systems of thought, System 1 is the default setting for the relaxed mind. It is the way our mind works when we would prefer not to overexercise our brains. When we are in a relaxed state of mind, we are in what Kahneman calls cognitive ease. System 1 allows us to be more creative as we are more relaxed. However, when our brains receive too much information, the system of thought shifts to System 2, and our minds are then in a state of cognitive strain. Kahneman suggests that we are, in fact, in control of these two systems of cognitive function, and we can use them to our advantage depending on the situation. If we need to solve a statistical problem, then we can activate System 2. However, if we need to write a persuasive email, for example, then shifting our minds to employing System 1 would be the best course of action. Number 8. When taking risks, be aware of how something is worded. Statistical analysis informs our decision-making when taking calculated risks. However, Daniel Kahneman suggests that the way problems are worded will have an effect on how our minds approach such a problem. This has a lot to do with probability. Kahneman argues that people will consider a rare event as more likely to occur if it's expressed in terms of relative frequency rather than as a statistical probability. If it is more probable that something will occur, then we are more likely to believe that the probability will occur, even if it's small. Being aware of how something is worded is key to understanding the way our minds work. Number 9. Do not think robotically. In economic spheres of influential thought, rational thought processes have always been held in high regard. This is because when dealing with money, we must think statistically. We make decisions, according to Daniel Kahneman, using what economists call utility theory. However, when purely using hyperrational thought processes, we only measure satisfaction according to how much utility something provides you. But we cannot measure value simply by utility. There is something more to just valuing goods and services based on their rational needs. According to utility theory, if two people have the same wealth, then they should be equally happy with their finances. But circumstance dictates that this may not be the case. The roads that led these two people to achieve the same level of wealth could have been markedly different. Thinking robotically, therefore, is not as rational as it seems. Number 10. An alternative to utility theory. Daniel Kahneman is convinced utility theory doesn't work. But what does? He posits something called prospect theory as an alternative. Again, this theory hinges on how we understand the wording of a question and the emotional response this provokes. Kahneman suggests that when taking a risk, we are inclined to think in terms of what we might gain from something, and that runs in parallel to loss aversion. Kahneman states that we understand value as much as our starting point as by the actual objective value at the time. Therefore, thinking intuitively is an emotional process. Number 11. Cognitive coherence may lead to making mistakes. Cognitive coherence, according to Daniel Kahnerman, is a process of constructing complete mental pictures to explain ideas and concepts. However, much like memory, this can be an unreliable approach to thinking. Placing overconfidence in what we perceive something to be or look like means we are prone to making mistakes. This is a system of thought which is based on assumptions. Kahneman suggests that we can combat this kind of thinking by utilising reference class forecasting, which in short term means doing a research. Creating an alternative picture based on facts rather than assumptions means that we can avoid making common errors in judgement. What's your most important key takeaway? Please comment down below and share the video if you like it. Thank you, and until next time.